Hey, everybody, what is happening? Happy Sunday. I think I'm on time, right? At 8 o'clock. And I caught the audio we're going to have a no technical problem Sunday. Go buy a lottery ticket. It's a good day. And Dano, you didn't make it the first person. Usually you're the first person strolling into the room, looking around. Hey, Donovan, thank you so much. And Mr. F and Anonymous. And I saw Auntie D, and I'm always just so blown away that you guys are here waiting early. It's just... So I am trying out some new technical things. I lifted up the laptop so I could have more eye contact with you guys. So what's happening, everybody? And we have Addie and Derek in the house, who are the best moderators on YouTube and maybe the entire internet. Yeah, I'm exaggerating a little, but not much. They are really, really awesome. Hey, Ted. Hello in Poland. I used to speak a little Slovak, and it's kind of similar. And so I knew some words. My grandfather on my step grandfather's side was from Poland. Hey, Jordan, howdy. Hey, Javier, thank you. Susan, hello. We're going to say hello to some people first. Glenda, hello. And Jordan, hey, Sissy, hello. Wendy, hi, everybody. Captain, hello. Koala Chuck, hello. Outlaw Justin, hey. Bliss is in the house. So what did you guys do? What did you guys do over the last week? So if you're following, what did I do the last live stream? I did it from from Philadelphia, and we had huge technical, and I tried to forget that, and you just can't forget it. So anyways, tonight I'm back, so hopefully we won't have huge technical difficulties. I am super grateful, you guys. I have been asking in the community section what questions or topics we should talk about, and there's some really good ones tonight, and so we're going to get to them in a bit. First off, I want to say thank you. I mean, I think it's 732,000 subs or something like that. We had 100 million views, over 101 million views in the last 365 days. That's huge. I mean, we're a nonprofit. We're not YouTubers. They're real, authentic stories of homeless people sharing their story raw and unedited. And it's exploding because you guys are supporting it. You guys are part of the solution. You are invisible people. I've always said invisible people is we, not me. So I am really, really grateful. I did a short trip. It was my mom's birthday. Many of you know my mom passed away. I'm in this house alone, trying to get it ready to sell, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay rent. And I needed a break. I needed to get out of here. So Cody, many of you saw the video, invited me down to Harrisburg because there was a tent city by where his office was, or his office is. And I went down and spent the afternoon with Cody, handed out socks, and he did a marvelous video. So then I went into Philadelphia, and it was amazing. Got to see a couple of friends, got to go to a tent city. And then I went up to New York City. So I will talk about some of that. Some of it I've been sharing. I share most of the real-time stuff I do in Instagram stories and Twitter, on Hardly Normal Twitter, not Invisible People Twitter. So if you're looking for the real-time reality, follow along while I'm walking out on the streets. Instagram is probably the one. Follow at Invisible People. So my mind, and I thought about this a lot driving today, and I posted the photo of her, and depending on if we might put up a mini doc this week, a really good one. Alex, who produces them with me, has been sick, so we're delayed. Or I might put up the video of the woman I met last night. So I went walking up to Times Square, and I have this knack for finding homeless people. I mean, gosh, you don't have to look really hard anymore, but so there's a population of homeless people that fit the stereotype image, right? And then there's people that are homeless but don't look it. And when I was a case manager in Los Angeles, 80% of my clients did not look homeless. You would never know that they were homeless. And these days, as it's starting getting cold, having a winter jacket, a backpack, it's sometimes hard to tell if somebody's homeless or not. And I have this knack. I mean, I've literally been out with social workers and other homeless service professionals, and I see people they don't. I don't know why. It's probably just because I do this a lot. And I'm walking through Times Square, and there was a woman sitting by herself by these plants, and she had a dog and she had some bags. So that was the clue that maybe she was possibly homeless. So I walked up and gave her some socks. And you'll see in the interview, I might not have even, I'm always wearing a mask. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. I wear a mask for you. I wear a mask for other people. I'm not really concerned about me. I don't have kids. I don't have a family. But when I'm out and there's people around, I wear a mask 100% of the time. So I got a mask on and I'm socially distancing. And I didn't know we were interviewing. And at the end of the interview, she starts coughing. And I asked her if she has a fever. And she said she did. So, my immediate concern was for her. And what is the availability of COVID tests? So let's back it up just a little bit. And Dr. Kelly, who we did a live stream about 2 months ago, she's an emergency room doctor in New York City. And if you remember, we talked about how rich people, people with money, people of influence, were able to get coronavirus before anybody else. Now it's kind of come out to the general population, but there's still some barriers. So most homeless people, they could have a broken leg, or they could have an infection or an abscess from shooting up, or whatever medical problem, a toothache or their foot hurting. I don't know if you guys, I shared it in the community section. The guy's feet that I saw in Philadelphia, I tried to get him out too. And homeless people won't go to get help. And part of it is I don't know what this thing is up there. Okay. There's like this cap thing. So part of it is, fear. None of us like to go to the doctors, but also they're like this woman, she had a dog and several large bags. So she said, the only way that she can get COVID tested is by calling the hospital in an ambulance, and she can't leave her stuff. So now I've been COVID tested twice, and both times was because I was having surgery, and it was a hospital setting. The other settings are mobile. I mean, there is drive-through, but you have to have a car. So it's not so easy for people experiencing homelessness, people in poverty, to get tested. The other fear is homeless people have been through the runaround so many times, and there's just a lot of roadblocks. That's why I support street medicine. But I was thinking about this because it's been on my mind a lot. So when coronavirus first hit, there was, and rightly so, a panic about what's going to happen when the virus hits the homeless population. Now, one thing good that happened is the government moved really quick. It proved that they can actually do something if they want. The government moved really quick and started placing homeless people in hotels. Now, sadly, that's not sustainable, and there's some other issues there, but it proved that the government can move really, really quick. But here it is a couple months later, and in Iowa, there's 48% of the people in Iowa are testing positive, right? Coronavirus is not going away. It's getting worse. But the homeless population, the numbers of people testing positive have not been as catastrophic as we thought. And if you think about that, that could be because they're just not being tested. So I tweet out a couple of, hey, what's going on? Who's doing this and that? And my friend Ryan, who's amazing, shared a picture about how they go to one of the largest homeless camps. That's great. And then another medical organization up in Oakland in the San Francisco Bay Area, shared how they're going out and doing mobile testing, which they've done twice now. And this isn't a criticism. It's, this whole thing is new to everybody. But, oh my God, I keep thinking about this woman. So she's homeless because she has brain damage. She was sitting in Times Square. She had to go to the bathroom, and the nearest bathroom was 5 blocks, New York City blocks. They're huge because the coronavirus had pretty much, most all of the restaurants are closed or limited access. And what she does, she said she holds it. And then one of her homeless friends comes around, and she has them watch her bags. I got to tell you, one of the friends came around. One of the things that I'm so honored about when it happens is I'm out on the streets handing out socks, talking to homeless people, and a homeless person, man or woman, will say, hey, will you watch my stuff? I got to run to the bathroom. They don't know me. They just trust me. And I mean, it's all their belongings, And what was heartbreaking to me is I was talking to Laura at the end of the interview. I'm going to put it up either this week or next. And I'm talking to Laura, and we're talking about how she didn't look homeless. And I forget what I exactly said. I said, I said, you look clean. And she says, I'm not clean. And the way she said it, I mean, it was just heartbreaking to me, because she's sleeping outside and she has no place to clean up. It's really, 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 really sad. But this is why I do what I do. One of the reasons invisible people exist is because the people at the top, rant's coming, the people at the top that make the decisions, they make decisions by looking at spreadsheets. They do not go out on the streets and connect with homeless people. They're making their decisions looking at data. The people at the top that are making decisions about homelessness and homeless people have almost zero connection to homeless people. They might once every couple of months sit in a presentation with formerly homeless people and pat themselves on the back about how great they're doing. And I'm being a little bit cynical and sarcastic but it's true. And one of the reasons I did invisible people was to take these homeless stories and put it in their face, because they're not going out. They're not walking out and listening to homeless people. And this is one thing I tell, and maybe you're a service provider, 4 hours a month minimum. I mean, you should do more, but 4 hours a month minimum frontline service. If you're the CEO, the COO, the CCCCCCO, whatever, middle management, you should be out doing frontline service, a minimum of 4 hours a month. So where I get my passion, I mean, I would be out every single day, every day. I would be out on the streets every day if I could. It's killing. I mean, I got to take care of this house and get it so I can get back to Los Angeles. There's a lot of challenges ahead, but I got to get back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago. And what drives me, the passion, why I rant, is because you know what? I felt this woman's pain. I felt that guy's pain with his feet like that. And then I felt powerless that I couldn't help them. Okay, where are we? I ranted for a bit. How long did I rant for? 18 minutes. Oh my gosh. Yes, Jordan, you're right. Stock up on hand sanitizer. You know what's weird? I still can't get N95 masks. I can get the KN95 mask, but I can't get a N95 mask. Hey, Millennial, I'm married. Thank you very much for the donation. Anonymous, thank you. Another anonymous, thank you. So picking for a living, that is he's asking about street homelessness. The reason that there's more homelessness in Los Angeles is bureaucracy. It's not the weather. There's actually more homeless people in New York City. You just don't see them because the city got sued, and there's something called a right to shelter. So the shelters really suck, but the people are inside on these cots or sometimes sleeping in chairs because they would get sued if they didn't otherwise. That's a whole nother That's a 2-show rant on the right to shelter thing. But basically what New York City had to do was they had to create shelters instead of housing, which ends homelessness. So the reason there's so much, it's one of my favorite stories. So like New York and New York County, San Francisco County are the same. In Los Angeles, you have Los Angeles County, which has, 5 kings, the Los Angeles County councilman, and then you have a mayor, right? You have the city and the county, and they're separate. So they sued each other to control homelessness because there's billions of dollars coming in, and they sued each other. So the judge created something called LAHSA, Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, which is more bureaucracy. Let's fix the bureaucracy instead of with more bureaucracy. How stupid can that be, right? Anyways, that is why. Across the board, wherever statistics show that majority of homeless people that end up homeless have a connection to where they were homeless. So you also see a lot of people in Los Angeles because Los Angeles housing crisis, or San Francisco or even New York, the housing market went up and there was not the income for them to stay in their apartments and they got evicted. So that is also a reason. But people don't move for the warm weather. I'm sure it happens. I did. I mean, house people move for warm weather. I'm sure some homeless people do too. But most homeless people end up on the streets with some connection to where they were last housed. Hopefully that made sense. Jordan, you lived in Buffalo. Buffalo is close. Hey, Christine from Maine. And I, you know what? I'm going to just do a video on this. And thank you for asking. I don't mean to. Christine asked, can I sponsor somebody directly? And if it's safe, meaning the person can handle money, sometimes a person, if you give them $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, they're going to go party and overdose. So it has to be safe. Secondly, they have to want it. I've met, there was the gentleman with his daughter in the RV, and I tried to talk him into creating a GoFundMe, and he says, I don't want it. I don't want it. That's his choice. Third, they have to be able to create it themselves. I'm not going to get between someone and their money. I don't know if you remember what happened in Philadelphia where the couple found the homeless guy and they created this big story. They raised $400,000. They bought BMWs. It was all a lie. And then the homeless guy never got any of the money or whatever. I'm not going to come through. I'm not going to get between anybody and their money. So if it is safe, the person wants it, and they can set up their own GoFundMe or fundraiser, whichever platform they want. There's a couple of them. I will add it. But it would not be responsible of me to put a fundraiser on every story. Now, there was a nonprofit in San Jose that actually did that. They actually did the invisible people model and they put a fundraiser, and the cute, attractive white girl raised a lot of money. And the not so attractive African-American man missing teeth that's kind of older didn't raise any money. And it hurt. It hurt because all of a sudden, people are giving money to a couple people, but they're not giving money to the other people. And it hurt. So they had to stop because the homeless people were getting hurt. But here's the thing. It's so awesome that you guys want to take action. Good. We've got to end homelessness. So what this thing tugging at your heart when you see an invisible people story that you want to help that person, great. Help that person by connecting to your local homeless services and working to end homelessness for everybody. The other thing is we need to really scream loud. I mean, pandemic unemployment, the last check was July 31st. There's 30 million people at risk of being evicted. There's 179 million people that are at risk of having their power and lights shut off. There's an article in the New York Times about how we have 8 million people now in poverty. We're as a country doing better, but now we're one of the worst because we have so many people in poverty. So it's really, really great that you want to help that one individual. And if there's a GoFundMe link, please help that one individual. We have furnished houses. You will look, and she might even be in the chat. I haven't been, one of the Dawn and her husband. I think I haven't checked recently. You gave like $7,000. They went into a hotel for a while. It was great, and they needed it, but all their stuff got stolen while they're in a hotel, and hotels aren't sustainable. And this is what you guys got to remember. Charity never solved the social crisis. Charity never solved the social crisis. One more time. Charity never solved a social crisis. And we've got to solve the reasons that people are entering into homelessness, that they need charity. And that is what has to be the priority. Donating to a GoFundMe will make you feel good and it'll help them a little bit. We've been doing this for a couple of years, 10 years. I think in the last year, 40, 10, we probably raised $100,000 that through people in their GoFundMe accounts that went directly to each homeless person, $100,000. One raised $30,000, $40,000, and they're still homeless. Everybody's still homeless. Why? Because when you post a GoFundMe account, it raises money for a week. And then it goes down to like $20 a day, and then $5 a day, and then $20 a week. Without rent every month, that person isn't going to get out of homeless. Without rent plus food money, that person isn't going to get out of homeless. Yes, it'll make their life a little easier for a short time, but we have to end homelessness, point blank. So I get it, and I respect it, and I'm so honored that there was something I do that inspired you to have compassion enough to want to take action. Well, take that compassion and go to, our get involved and write a senator, or, as I tell you, I don't tell you to donate to invisible people. I tell you to connect to local homeless services. I'm the only nonprofit probably in the world that tells people to connect to your local homeless services. Yes, if you feel like donating to invisible people, we do great work and we need the support, and I'm grateful. But you are going to have more impact and more connection if you support ending homelessness in your local community. And when it's all done, when it's all said and done, I want to end homelessness. I want to end homelessness. I am the only nonprofit will tell you go support other nonprofits. Why? Because it's important, and it's the best way to end homelessness. And we haven't even gotten to the questions, and there's a bunch of them. And I opened the wrong link. So Jim McClure asked, isn't it difficult for you to keep up with the people you've interviewed? I'm guessing a lot of them are travelers. I do enjoy when you show someone again and they are no longer homeless. So, Jim, to answer your question directly, so I love travelers. Travelers is a subset of homeless youth. Most homeless people, homeless can be transient, but like we said earlier, they live in that particular area. What's very sad to me, like I just ran into Charmaine. I hadn't seen Charmaine. I interviewed her 6 years ago. I'm in New York City. Here she is again. So one thing, I give everybody a card with my information, and so they're aware of what's going on, and they're totally aware that the video is going to be on YouTube and our YouTube channel. And then we're going to, on the back, it has information to our online support group, and some of them connect through our online support group. What's interesting that has happened over the last couple of years is now I've met, like Derek. I met Derek online before I went and interviewed him for Invisible People. So I have to say, Jim, I too love it when I can interview somebody and they're no longer homeless. But sadly, out of most of our interviews, majority of the people are still homeless. In fact, more people have died than have been placed into housing. And that is why we need to, that's why we don't need a GoFundMe. That's why we need to end homelessness. But Jim, thank you very much. I thought that was a wonderful question. Thank you, Jordan. I agree, Jamie. Vote, vote, vote. So, Rich, how do we end it, though? Great question. We have to. So, this is one, and there's somebody else wrote a really very, very important question that we're going to get into some of that. But so I know most people just probably watch for 4 minutes and leave. For the people that are here, we have to fix the affordable housing crisis. We have to fix living wage. We have to fix foster care. We have to fix the broken criminal justice system. I mean, it used to be when you got out of jail, you got $200 and a bus ticket. Now they don't give you anything. So you can't get a job because you're a felon. You paid your time. Your family probably not going to talk to you. So you're homeless. And, you know, racism, domestic violence, all these drugs and alcohol, mental illness, all play a part in homelessness. And we have to go upstream. We have to first work at prevention, stop people from even becoming homeless, and second, work on if somebody does get on the streets, get them off as quickly as possible. But thank you. That's another good question. So we're riffing off them. So Seth Becker, and this is a little longer of a question, and I'll answer it maybe in parts. So talk about drugs and alcohol problems in the homeless community. I found that a vast majority of homeless people are either in depths of their addiction or just coming out of them. That is not true. So in any particular city, 20 to 40% addiction, mental illness. Now in areas like Skid Row or the Tenderloin, yes, you have a higher concentration of addiction and mental health issues. And what we do as humans, we see somebody shooting up and we just automatically assume all homeless people shoot up, right? 73% of homeless people are sober. Most people that do drugs are in housing. Most people with mental illness are in housing. Most people using and doing and abusing drugs, most drug addicts own homes and rent apartments. So drugs and alcohol are not, they're an issue. They're a crisis. We need to get better at the drug and alcohol crisis and helping people. But this thinking that, majority of homeless people are addicts or have mental illness is not true. So, and if they're trying to turn their life around and you're homeless and an addict, it's too hard for the vast majority of people. I agree with that. I was a severe alcoholic addict and I needed help. Some people had to love on me until I could love myself. You say you need a whole village of support. Agreed. I believe that if the state ran some sort of drug alcohol rehab, teach life skills, government jobs, government housing programs directly address homelessness at this perspective, then we could reduce the population by 70%. So there are programs, government, all of those programs exist, right? But it's broken. Every part of the social services. So I'm a homeless person. I want to get sober. I go into a detox, 3 days, 7 days, come out. If I'm lucky, and it's all about money because the insurance companies have to pay for it, right? So I go into a recovery, if I'm lucky, 28 days. Okay. Hey, Anonymous, thank you. I forgot I think it was, booze and alcohol stays in your system 90 days, 120 days, right? But all the insurance is going to pay for is 28 days. So then you're exited back to homelessness. Well, I'm going to the bathroom behind a McDonald's dumpster. I might as well have a beer because life sucks. And I'm not advocating for alcohol. I'm just trying to put into this perspective that the drug and alcohol counseling and industry, because that's an industry too, is really disjointed. When somebody goes into detox, then goes into a recovery center, then they need to go into housing or get housing first. And this, I don't know why the homeless sector doesn't talk about it, but if a person wants to go into a recovery center for 120 days, the housing first, they will hold his apartment. And that is, it all has to work together. Streets, rehab, housing. Streets, rehab, housing. Streets, rehab, housing. As far as the job thing goes, it's, I don't know, but thank you for the question. I thought that was a good question. I like how you asked it all the way around, and it gave me an opening to talk about a couple of different points. So, Dominic Mall asked about, and there might be somebody in the chat room because I don't have a lot of experience with this, homeless and their pets, how to help them. And this is a tough one. Like the woman last night, she had a lovely dog. Oh my gosh, she had such a beautiful dog. But I'll tell it like this. So this is back when I was doing ministry, when I was Pastor Mark, right? And there was a runaway girl from Hollywood, and she had a rat, like a white rat, the pet tame lab rats, not like your wild rats, right? And that was a big thing. I haven't seen it a lot, but again, I'm in upstate New York, not on the streets of Hollywood. And she had this rat, and she loved the rat. And you got to understand that rat was probably the only thing that gave her unconditional love. This girl was probably abused. And they wouldn't help her because of the rat. And the girl's not going to give up the rat. That's the only thing that's going to give her that's been giving her unconditional love. That's the only thing that and it's so extremely hard. I have seen homeless shelters that have built kennels, but the homeless person doesn't want to keep their dog in a cage, right? And it's tough. It's tough. I have not seen a good solution. Now, what I have seen that I think is great, I see it in London. I know there's one in Seattle, and there's some other ones, I'm sure in others, is that there's one in Los Angeles. vets that are going out and helping people. I know K-Town for All outreach workers, they take out dog food and dog biscuits to give to homeless people that are going to give to their pets. So that is all very, very important. So you guys still with me? I know you're just all chatting with Addie and Derek. We're going to call this the Addie and Derek show. So I forgot. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm going to have to go look this up. Oh, maybe that will be. Hang with me. Hang with me. All still there? Hey, it's like great. There's like 400 of you, and I don't share this on social media. I mean, there might be times that I do, but I didn't tonight. You know what? I'm just going to go to another question. There was a good question, but I forgot the name, and I wanted to. I like to give attribution. So Lauren Norable says, she says, and I love this question. She says, I see the videos, I see the people. What I can't seem to find is where to help connect some of these people with an opportunity to be off the streets. There are people who would sponsor them. Has anyone put together a classified to pick from? So that's kind of the GoFundMe thing a little bit. So I'm not going to go back into the GoFundMe. We've talked about that. We talk about it every week. GoFundMes will not end homelessness. We need to end homelessness. But I thought was really, really, really no Addie. It's the Addie and Derek show. You know, it's got to be alphabetical, A, D, and then M. And so I really like how Lauren says, I see the videos, I see the people, but what I can't seem to find is where to help connect some of these people to opportunity. And that is another good point of why we see the GoFundMe, donate and GoFundMe. It makes you feel better. You gave $20, person buys a sandwich, nothing changes, right? But we need to fix that broken system. Like I was talking about how the rehab and the mental health aren't connected very well to housing, and the same situation. Or have you seen, and please go to our channel and check out the Koreatown, K-Town for All, or the Selah video, because here are people that were frustrated. They're neighbors, normal people, and they're like, we want to help our neighbors, but we don't know what to do. I mean, one of the things that is so mind-blowing to me is when a normal person like you, Lauren, goes and tries to help a homeless person, you see how hard it is. You know, you have a phone, you have a car, you have some money and are able to have, get some things done because you have resources, and you can't get help. You can't get help. The system is broken. I feel like Crazy Eddie. Anybody remember Crazy Eddie? Oh my gosh, I'm turning red. I'm going to have an aneurysm. If I die on a live stream, Addie, Derek, you've got to get in here and delete that, okay? Oh my gosh, but the system is broken, and that's what we have to work to fix. There is not a city in this country that you as a citizen see a homeless man on the ground, but you can't call 911, don't call the police. I mean, if a person is at risk of hurting themselves and hurting other people, yes, call 911. But otherwise, you need somebody to call. There is no place to call. And that's what we need to change. We need to fix all that so that there's real solutions to end homelessness. You all still with me? Aren't these questions great? Okay, Dominic Bayer asked me a tough one. And so Dominic asks, have you ever had doubts about your cause? How did you deal with the excessive negativity and the idea that for every one person you help, there are millions more? That's a great question. Oh my gosh. So doubts about the cause. Yes, I have had doubts about invisible people. I mean, I don't know if you know what imposter syndrome is. Some of it might be that. I mean, even now, I believe that, thank you, Anonymous. I believe that soon invisible people will be able to hire staff. I believe that for a long time, but hey, Anonymous, thank you. But it's going to happen, right? I'm going to be okay. But when I first started and for the last bunch of years, I got to tell you, I was like, especially when I first started, because I would go and I'd empathize with a homeless person, and I was facing homelessness again. And I'm like going, this is crazy. What am I doing? And it was ripping my heart out. Gonzalo, thank you. And it was heartbreaking. And I question it all the time. And I used to get this. You know what? I should do. I have a couple of presentations that I do when I speak. Would you guys like to hear them? Hey, the Truth Lady, thank you. Maybe I'll go through one of the presentations because I talk about it. So very early on, there was, America's Next Top Model. And this girl wrote, she goes, I used to call homeless people bums. And then I saw invisible people, and now I've learned they're like everyone. And I started getting these little signs that people were changing, that invisible people was having an impact. And I won't stay on this, but there was, all these, little signs that kept me going. I got to tell you, this one's been on my heart. There's a girl named Jennifer, and she is in Invisible People in New York City. So I worked the Glendale Winter Shelter, which is Los Angeles. And as I'm working the Winter Shelter, I have a deal with the executive director that I won't do any stories of any of the clients. We'll be friends, but the executive director didn't feel comfortable. And I agreed with that. I thought it was a good decision. So Jennifer was pregnant and she was in the Glendale Winter Shelter. So on March 13th or 14th or 15th, the Winter Shelter closes. And I'm walking down, I lived Hollywood Boulevard at the time, and I'm walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and there's Jennifer. And we started talking. So at the same time, and this is important, at the same time, there was a church that was going to fly me to New York City. And it was all set. And then the guy that was leading it got injured. So then it got postponed a week. It's right. So, there's no way you could plan all this, right? And so it got postponed a week. And then all of a sudden I'm in New York, like around 42nd and 9th. It's 9:30 in the morning. It's raining. It's foggy. I didn't think anybody would be outside. I go walking out with my camera, and there's Jennifer. 2 weeks ago, I saw her in Los Angeles, right? And I got to say, that morning, I wanted to quit. I want to quit so many times. It's heartbreaking. It's hard emotional work. But anyways, I was really discouraged, and I'm not one of these spooky people. It wasn't a sign from God or anything. I think we give God, and God's great, but we sometimes go give him credit for things that he didn't do. A lot of things are just really neat coincidences. But I was ready to quit. I was so discouraged. I had no money. I was, couldn't pay rent. And it was just crazy. And all of a sudden I turn this corner and here's this girl. So now, because winter shelter's closed, we're 3,000 miles away. I did her story. And that really spoke to me. So there's little things like that that you gotta. So Lviva Prim was my first boss in the homeless sector. I had worked in ministry, and ministry is mostly charity. You go into a park, you feed people, you give them flyers for church, and you don't show up for a month. And then you come back and you cook some hot dogs and sing a song and tell them to come to church. And, and then I started doing real full-time, nonprofit outreach where you're in a van 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week trying to help people, Anyways, Lviva Prim told me something that was, she said, you have to keep a tape in your head to replay of the success stories because they're few and far between, and you're going to be heartbroken and discouraged. And when that happens, you have to play a tape. And I know there's a couple stories, I won't go into them now, that are just so heartbreaking. Whenever I bring this up, I remember them because I had to play a tape of the success story, and that is, but you can't give up. We can't. And if all of us, and I don't mean to bring up the GoFundMe again, but if we all stop doing the GoFundMes and went and screamed at our politicians and fixed the affordable housing crisis, we could end homelessness. Or churches tomorrow could end homelessness if they wanted to. So anyways, I won't go in there, and we're at 51 and we get down to Kathy with an I, Dory. And hopefully I pronounced your name right. But she says, I see a lot of your videos are from people in big cities. Why do homeless people gather in big cities and do not look for help or chances to get out from homeless in smaller cities and rural places? The end part I don't quite understand, but I'm going to tie it into rural. So as we talked about earlier, or first, let me say what happens. This year I have been traveling a little bit because my speaking gigs have been canceled, right? My personal income is nothing. Zip. Nada. I am making nothing. I got to sell my mom's car. Hopefully I will sell it this week because I need food money. Anyways, the reason I'm in big cities a lot is because the travel is paid for by somebody else. Like, for instance, I get paid to go speak at a marketing conference. My background is marketing. They pay me, they buy the plane ticket, they pay me to speak. Then I take the money they pay and I extend out the hotel and rent a car, and I come back broke, but I've now spent a week in Dallas, right? So that's how it's always been. It's kind of cool that it's happened organically that way, but it's also hurts with intentional storytelling. What I mean is there's some areas where, like I would have loved to stay in Philadelphia a little longer because what's happening at the homeless camp there. I would love to stay in New York a little longer to help the advocates on the Upper West Side. But I don't have the funds or the time, and it's just not possible right now. Someday, I was always hoping that when something happens news-wise and, media and homeless, that I would be able to go there and help homeless advocates advocate whatever story that is. So, and the other thing is, it's not that homeless people gather in big cities. People gather in big cities, right? I mean, the homeless people are in big cities because that's where they got homeless. They were evicted there. Majority of people that whatever it is, St. Louis, Dallas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, majority of the people are on the streets because they lived there, they worked there, and they were evicted there. And that's how they became homeless. But I really wanted to bring up rural communities because right now we're about to. So Congregate Shelters, that's, like a big gymnasium with cots on the floor, right? So you have a gymnasium and you put 100 cots and that's a congregate shelter. Because of the coronavirus, congregate shelters are not safe. So congregate shelters, a couple of things, they're either reducing them. So if let's say you have 100-man shelter, then now it's reduced to 50. Okay. Well, what do the other 50 do? And then in some cities, rural communities, they're not even going to open emergency shelters. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because the coronavirus is getting worse. It's killing more people. But you can't leave people outside to die outside in the freezing cold weather. Yet Jethro's Slab City is real. They don't have laws. It used to be really, really cool, but a couple of homeless people that I know that travel and pass through that say it's gotten really bad. And it's, kind of scandalous, but it is real. There's a lot of documentaries on it on YouTube. So, and I don't have an answer for this, but this is again, I don't keep bringing this up, but instead of doing a GoFundMe, this is what we need to do. You need to contact, you're going to hear in whatever community you're in, Ithaca, New York. So I do try to hit rural as much as possible. Ithaca, I've been to Jackson, Ohio, a town of 5,000 people. So whatever town you're in, it's about ready to get cold. Even if you're in Los Angeles, it's going to get cold and rainy. So, but if you're in the, northern part of the country, it's going to get freezing. And you're going to hear in the news about emergency shelters opening or not opening. You're going to hear, I have a friend I have two friends, a mom and a daughter, they live in a car. And they shared that in their community, the 3 emergency shelters are not going to open this year because of the coronavirus, leaving everybody outside in the cold. And again, the coronavirus is a crisis, but people freezing outside is a crisis. It's heartbreaking. I mean, already this year in Los Angeles, last year was like 1,039, maybe 1,036. I might be off by a couple. People died. Already it's over 960. It's going to be really bad. And that's where, hey, Eddie, thank you. That's where we all got to come in. We've got to. Yes. Like the video with Cody, I bought a homeless woman glasses. If you see somebody hurting, help them if you can. A pair of glasses at CVS was $23. So help them if you can, right? But we've got to work to get housing. I don't even know how to move forward. So as we started off this show, I was talking about how the coronavirus and the lack of testing for homeless people and the challenges and the roadblocks. So we don't even know how many people have the virus or not in the homeless population. We're not testing them. every now and then mobile something will get together and they'll test. But it's not a priority. They're homeless. And now we have congregate shelters that are basically death traps because of the virus. And then some people, we've got to show that. See, somebody said F homelessness. That's okay. Don't delete that. F homelessness, right? I mean, if I say it, then YouTube slaps me, so I try not to. Anyways, we are at the 1 hour mark. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do a whole hour. And to my friend that texts me every Sunday, I didn't get a text today. So maybe I shouldn't keep going. Anyways, this week we're going to either put up the video of Laura or I'm hoping that it's the Echo Park Lake community homeless tent city. It is really, really awesome. Excuse me, excuse you, excuse who? Yeah, I'm getting silly now. So I think we've done an hour. I'm getting silly. So thank you. Thank you for support. I mean, we're growing in subs, we're growing in views, we're growing in support. We're on Apple News and Google News. If you're an iPhone user, look in your iPhone app, click on news, favorite invisible people. If you're an Android user, look in Google News, favorite Google News. We are reaching millions of people every month, not just on YouTube. YouTube is just one thing we do. It's a big thing. And I'm grateful for all of your support. You guys are really, really, really awesome, except for Lady T, who just said she likes Silly Mark because Silly Mark is too silly for the internet. Yeah. And I really, really think the world of you. I mean, these Sunday nights are something special. So have a good week. Next week, I'm going to be here. And, well, I'm just picking on her, Addie. And because she was said something about me being silly, so I had to be silly back. Next week, I'll be here. You guys have a marvelous week. And thank you for spending your Sunday nights with me.